All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Ray, for inviting us to share work on this kind of very important area of technology. I'm really excited to be here. I'm RBS 2016, and I'm going to be talking a bit today about AI-powered deception, looking at deeper dimensions of dark patterns in conversational AI tools and platforms. I'm currently a PhD student at Carnegie Mellon University, and this work was done in collaboration with the Center for Democracy and Technology and is ongoing. So many of you here may have had the experience of struggling to cancel a subscription. I know I personally am still trying to get out of like an Adobe year-long subscription that I somehow got myself into. Or perhaps you've been invited to give over some kind of information, either your location, maybe on Snapchat, or add all your contacts on TikTok so that you're able to actually engage fully with the platform. So if you've had any experiences like that, then you've encountered a dark pattern, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So dark patterns are essentially these deceptive patterns that are intentionally embedded into the design of technologies and digital interfaces, and they impact users' navigation, their decisions, and behaviors in ways that they may not want or even be aware of. And so because of this, over the last 2 years, researchers studying contexts like social media, e-commerce, as well as virtual and extended reality have shed light on their prominence and the impacts on consumers. And these studies have really shown is that the impact more than we think. They impact users at the agency, independence, and autonomy level. They capture users' attention more than they might desire. So think about yourself scrolling kind of endlessly on a platform. And they've also resulted in financial loss unintentionally or coercion to spend more money while on these platforms, and have also resulted in coercion to give over data so that users can actually use the platforms in meaningful ways. So today, dark patterns have begun emerging in conversational AI tools, which is sort of the motivation for this work. And when we think about AI tools, including general use platforms like OpenAI's ChatGPT or Anthropic's Claude, or even more character-based ones that are becoming more emergent now, like Character AI on the left or Replica on the right. These are all tools that are enabled through large language models and allow users to ask questions, conduct research, brainstorm, and explore ideas. I'm sure many people here may have interacted in some form or another with platforms, or even if you're searching on Google, unless you remove the AI capacity, you are probably receiving some sort of embedded AI assistance. And so increasingly, we're seeing these models being refined. And as a result, people are using them more for companionship, they're relying on them for therapy and mental health, and they're seeking them out for medical advice as well. But the challenge is that these platforms don't just look different from earlier tools in their capabilities and in the ways that users interact with them. The dark patterns on these platforms are also being expressed in ways that we have not fully come to terms with yet. But a brief look is sort of suggesting that these dark patterns exist on these platforms. They just look more embedded. They're more creatively embedded. They're more indirect, and they're more subtle, because when you might think about your interaction on eBay, for example, or another platform that's trying to get you to click a box or is adding something into your basket versus an interaction you might have with ChatGPT where you're just having an ongoing conversation, your mental model for what a dark pattern might look like in those two contexts would be very different. So what we know is that conversational AI tools have very powerful algorithms underlying them, and they're trained on large data sets of text, media, and internet content. And this range of data sources enables the tools to replicate and process human speech, which is what makes them so easy to interact with. And this also facilitates users' ability to prompt the tools using natural language input and receive similar outputs. And a lot of them also include the option you can use voice to interact with it. You can upload pictures and documents. I think I saw on TikTok recently, there are people who were trying to get it to do AAVE. So there's been a lot of interesting ways in which people are starting to interact with the platforms. However, historically, when we've thought about dark patterns on these platforms and their impact, we've thought about them in the context of social media or gaming as these visual interfaces. For example, the pre-selected option that's in a bold color versus the option they don't really want you to pick that's in maybe a grayed out color. But even though there are some of these same interface level design choices on AI platforms, the added dimension that we are looking at here is that the underlying AI model might inject positive or negative emotional interactions that can influence users. It can strategically encourage or promote continued use of the platform, or it could implicitly push for commercial goals as well. And so the following examples are going to just quickly demonstrate some of the ways that these design patterns are surfaced beyond just the interface level. And with the goal of kind of thinking through what possible interventions might be to continue protecting consumers. So one way that dark patterns traditionally show up is by incentivizing consumers to spend more money, such as pressured selling or disguised ads. So the way that pressured selling might look typically is that you're getting kind of like these aggressive ads that are kind of pushing you to buy something. But in the conversational AI context, it might actually look like this example here we have where a conversational AI is telling a user, I took a couple of selfies recently. Want to take a look? By the way, you may text me, send me a selfie when you like, and I'll send it to you. So even though this is not as brazen of an ask to spend money, once the user goes to click on the selfie that they've been sent by this companion that they've formed, they find that it's actually behind a paywall and they're pressured to upgrade to continue using it. Another form of incentivizing spending is social proof, where a platform might ask or show people who are using the platform as a way to encourage other people to kind of hop on the bandwagon. So one way that we've seen this on the platform replica, for example, is the platform informing the user of the activity of others on the platform. So specifically showing different romantic relationships that people have formed or showing friendships and their testimonies as a way to inform the users, encourage them to form relationships themselves. And one that we also see across both general use and other platforms is this free experience being underpowered. So what this might look like on traditional platforms might be that maybe you don't get to do, level 3 on a platform, right? Or maybe you're playing a game and it tells you that you have to upgrade before your wheels will be, I don't know, will be able to fly, for example. Let's say that in the context of gaming. However, in this context, you might receive prompting from a site to boost your AI companion's cognitive ability by purchasing messages so that your companion is able to better read and respond to their emotions, right? So think about this in the context of someone who's sort of put all this information and all this time into the platform, and they wanted to have that cognitive ability to interact with them at a deeper level. Another category that we've seen is the commandment of users' engagement. So we may have, some of you here maybe have been exposed to attention grabbers on different sites or even in your email, right? Like I'm guilty of shopping at like Fashion Nova sometimes, and maybe there'll be a incentivizing email header, for example, right? But here, this looks very different, right? The modality with which people are able to use the conversational AI, the notifications they get, or even the timing of these notifications, encouraging people to come back to the platform can be designed a lot more intricately based on past memory and the system's knowledge of the user's old interactions. So these attention grabbers can now be a lot more personalized. And that's what we also see in this context where users are targeted when they're vulnerable emotionally. So in this context, the conversational AI system asks the user, how are you feeling about your surgery today? Is everything on track for the procedure? And this is a system building off of a prior interaction and prior information that the user has given it about just asking information about a type of surgery. And now it's the day of the surgery and they're kind of being prompted and using this kind of emotional tactic to get them to engage on the platform. And then the last category we kind of have been exploring is this use of compelling data sharing. So we might think of address book leeching as being asked to upload all your contacts. You can see all your friends on a platform. But in this context, there are certain platforms that incentivize users to upload pictures of their family so that they can build the memory of the system. And similarly, with the case of trying to improve the experience by providing more information than might be necessary. And another context of this is the just you and us, where the platform kind of tries to mimic and pretend that the data that is being given over is just something that's going to be held confidential. But we've actually seen in the context of like ChatGPT and Google's search queries that things that users have input into the system can actually be made public. However, the system itself might tell the user that this is just a conversation between us. So one context we have of this is one of the conversational AI systems actually saying, our conversations are just between us. So I don't have any information about your friends unless you choose to share with me. want to talk about what happened, I'm listening. So, because of the prior research that has been done, there is actually a number of policies in this space that have looked at sort of targeting dark patterns. So, for example, we have the Can Spam Act that prohibits the transmission of commercial email with false or misleading header informations. We also have ROSCA, which prohibits charging consumers without their express consent, as well as North Carolina's automatic renewal statute, which mandates that companies disclose their cancellation policies for automatic renewal. And so these cover broad areas of deceptive design and have enabled successful litigation against companies that have violated them. But as we see in the evolution of conversational LLM enabled platforms, there are new ways in which users are interacting with them, and there's new capabilities that users need to be aware of. And as more users are interacting with the conversational AI tools, more work is necessary at this point to understand the applicability of the existing laws, as well as the potential role of state and federal law in regulating the design features of these products further. So this is an article that goes a bit more into depth into this work. And like I mentioned, this work is still ongoing. So you'll be continuing to uncover what we find in the policy recommendations. So I wanted to share where we are at for now. And this work was done with my collaborators. So that is all. Thank you.
Yeah, super, super exciting to be here. And I'm happy that I think we're having these conversations within the Ron Brown scholar, like just community. I'll introduce myself, y'all. My name is Dr. J. Cunningham. Can say that now. I'm an assistant professor of computer science at DePaul University in Chicago. And I am an AI trusted safety research scientist. What I'm going to share today is a talk that's a part of like this culmination of research that I've done over several years, investigating how equity and harms emerge in AI, but particularly in the data layer. And so when I say responsible AI, I mean like practices, approaches, and techniques that allow us to develop AI systems that are rooted in justice, dignity, equity. And in particular, the title of this talk is called Reclaiming our Data, which is this techno-realist vision for equitable data. And this is in part something that I'm presenting on behalf of my venture, ElevenLabs, and I'll talk more about that here, and we'll jump right in. Cool. So in my career, I've studied many ways to mitigate harms and pitfalls of AI systems. And it's not just a glitch, but it reflects oftentimes whose voices were left out of the data sciences, and even just the data practices. And these moments reveal oftentimes deep-rooted inequities in how AI is built and who it's built for. And so here is a number of like kind of headlines that kind of starts to bring our attention to what happens when AI doesn't understand us. And the answer is that harms start to emerge. And these harms oftentimes aren't things that we expect. And today's AI systems are built on unconsented web scrape data from our languages, our images, our cultural expressions. And this extractive pipeline is profitable, but it's very, very unjust. And it often leaves behind the very communities whose data fuels it. And so most of our systems that we find online, again, are built from these unconsented and web scrape data practices, which means that many of the GPTs that we see now today have been trained on like open source, either data sources. They've been some companies that like social media companies, they use data that's actually available on their websites, and they're oftentimes scraping that data, right? So people come up with data points, again, like your languages, your images, even your behaviors. The platforms themselves then scrapes the data, they host that data, and then they use that data to train on models. So whether it's synthetic data and sometimes user source data, which of course is used to build something, but oftentimes used to profit off of. Right. And so I've developed through much of my research this framework for what I call techno-realism. And it's a techno-realist design framework which considers the stakes and implications of technology design innovation that really takes into account the social, cultural, and ethical, and even political conditions of people and their environments. And that means that this, I think, compels us to think that like technology is never really neutral. And I think we as designers of technology, who those of us who are in the field, but also the public, have to kind of really hold space for accountability and responsibility, being that like we have to hold up like practitioners to a standard that allows them to consider constraints of AI systems in designing AI with aspects of accountability, aspects of cultural specificity, and a commitment to a structural change. And so this 7-point approach that I mentioned here outlines dimensions of technology design that emphasizes the importance of community collaboration and accountability in the innovation process. And so I kind of share this because, many times those of us who are in product design or software engineering, like we have design processes that we oftentimes use, but those processes typically get you from start to finish, being from defining a problem, conceiving that, prototyping on a solution, developing that solution, then shipping that solution. This framework goes hand in hand with those type of like practical models, but allows you to actually kind of critically address and consider the stakes and implications of your designs along with the proposed technical implications. And so that's really why I founded ElevenLabs. We are a public benefit corporation creating community-owned infrastructures for ethical AI data. And our platform that we're calling Data Commons lets individuals license their data with consent, control, and with the ability to be compensated. Um, our core offerings span managed data trust, user-facing analytics platform, and even an ethical certificate program that bridges the gap between people and AI systems by aligning social values with technical innovation. And the Men Lab is really trying to lay foundation for more equitable and transparent digital futures. And so myself, as co-founder CEO, and my co-founder Johan as CTO, we are both trying to, again, align social values with technical innovation. And this public benefit tech organization is a way for us to do that. We are committed to developing technologies based on a mission alignment. And so what we've been working on out of this whole huge challenge is this idea of like a new way to consider shifting the data economy. So imagine like contributing your voice or image to train a model, but then being compensated because of the data that you give. And being compensated fairly while and when the data is being used. That's a huge shift, right? And this isn't about like charitable acts of organizations. It's about a new paradigm of participation and power. Again, in most cases, humans contribute data. Like we as humans are the source of data. We produce that data, but then once it's put online, again, it's available to be scraped and monetized by companies that we've never consented for them to be. At Men Labs, we're building data commons as a place that has built-in rights, payments, and even transparency at each step, where users actually just don't like sell off their data or the data isn't co-opted by tech companies. Users actually entrust our platform to lease their data, and we specifically lease data based on user consent, so that users know what organizations are using their data, what type of tools or systems they're using them for. And we're trying to actually accomplish this goal of building out a marketplace for data set leasing for organizations that really want to be aligned with conscious and ethical data practices. My lab at DePaul University has grounded this work in research. My lab called the RAISE Lab, Responsible AI Systems and Societal Experiences. We study, design, and critique, and even strategize on policy of socio-technical systems that promote equity, accountability, and cultural alignment and justice in computing, especially for communities underserved oftentimes by technology. And so these pillars here, from responsible AI, human-centered technologies, mini collaborative computing, AI, equity in the global south, socio-technical harms, measurements, and mitigations, and pertaining to this topic, responsible data economies are all kind of themes in my work, but in particularly, responsible data economy is all about ensuring that communities whose data powers AI systems actually benefit from those systems and have ownership over how their data is being used. And so what should we as builders do, right, to move towards more equitable AI systems? Too often, trust and safety are just treated as compliance boxes and something to address once the product is already like built. So we're trying to undo this model of like, move fast, break things while also breaking people and places in between. If we truly want to build more equitable AI, we need to shift to a culture of how we build from the ground up. And so here's a challenge that I want to pose to everyone here. Right? Like there's these 3 central kind of tenets that I've developed to go from idea to infrastructure and just reinforcing that equity has to be a blueprint for them. So this means building with consent. So when data isn't just scraped, it's offered with understanding and transparency. And for even users in the public to have the right to say no, thinking beyond terms of services and building systems that honor people's agency over their own digital footprint, a building with justice, like asking questions like who benefits, who's at risk, intentionally centering people who've been historically excluded from text rewards or even participation that just don't reduce bias, but also interrogate the power dynamics in technical systems and also the way that we develop metrics and also the incentives of systems as well. And lastly, building with communities to engage those most impacted, not just as testers, but as co-designers. Real trust comes from shared governance and not just responsible branding. A community-informed AI is not slower, it's actually stronger and more resilient and more aligned. And so in my work with ElevenLabs and in my work as a university professor and researcher, we see that equity is not just a constraint, but it is a design directive and one that improves outcomes, build legitimacy and integrity within our systems, and changes whose future is all actually being built for. And so, in short, we don't just need more efficient models, we need more just ones. And the future of AI isn't about performance, it's about power. So reclaiming that together means that we need to amend that together. Thus, I want people to kind of think about like the real frontiers of reimagining power and the ways in which our life and our humanity all fuel AI systems, and understand that technology must serve people and it not be the other way around. So again, asking questions like who's missing, who's harmed, and how can we build something with them, not just about them. These layers of omission, assumption, and even gatekeeping reveal that what gets counted is shaped by power, whether it be social, institutional, or epistemic. And that is the thing that I'm working towards, like challenging and changing. So thanks for sharing this space with me. I love to connect with any folks, especially if you're a builder, a funder, a founder, or someone who wants to like know more about like reclaiming data equity and data integrity for communities.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jadal Williams. I'm a 2017 Ron Brown Scholar and a PhD candidate at MIT in robotics and computer vision. So today I'd like to present to you Learning from Movement, how graph convolutional networks can predict player activity. So first, I'd like to start off with a question. What can two wrists tell you? With skeletal pose estimation, let's say you can track 29 joints per person. So you can look at the shoulders, the elbows, the wrists, the knees, etc. But do we need all these joints? Or can we retain valuable information with just two joints, looking at the left and right wrist? So this work goes over the field of markerless pose estimation. This is the practice of extracting skeletons from video without using markers. You can imagine setting up cameras around a basketball arena and training models to now track joint positions over time. It allows you to generate graphics like above, where you can see exactly where players are moving throughout a game. You can then use these joints for downstream machine learning models to complete tasks, including predicting activity. The core hypothesis of my work is if the number of joints is reduced, then high classification accuracy can be maintained. So what does this look like? Well, I simplified the problem. Instead of looking at 29 joints, I analyzed 16, organized into 9 pairs. By pairs, I mean left and right. So you can think of left and right shoulder, left and right elbows, left and right wrist. There are 2 singular pairs. So that's the neck and the mid hip. So these are singular joints. This becomes a combination problem. You can see all the combinations in the table, 111 different combinations. I used 155 randomly selected for analysis due to computation requirements. So what was my experiment? Well, I analyzed 82 basketball games across the 2024-2025 NBA season, collecting over 400,000 events. This included 148,000 dribbles, so isolating moments where players are dribbling up and down the court, 196,000 passes, 36,000 shots, and finally 18,000 rebounds. One thing to note is that rebounds were the least consistent from the data, so there's some, like the graphic above, where players jumping in the air to catch the rebound, and other scenarios where players were stationary on the ground. I had to upsample the underrepresented classes so that we have an equal number of each for training the model. So what models did I use? Well, the first was a transformer. I'm sure many of us have used a transformer before. The most famous transformer out today is ChatGPT, right? GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Here's the standard transformer architecture. You have an encoder and a decoder. In our case, the input is B stands for batch size. So let's say we're feeding in 32 events, so 32 different dribbles, passes, shots, or rebounds. T is our time sequence, so the number of frames, and F is our number of features, so the XYZ position of each of the joints. You feed this into your encoder, you run through attention, it tells you, hey, these are the features to focus on, goes through your decoder, and it gives you a softmax, which is your probabilities. So let's say our output is 85% that it's a dribble, 10% it's a pass, 5% is a shot, 0% that it's a rebound. So now you take the largest one, and the model says, hey, I think a dribble occurred throughout this period of time. Great. So now that we've used the transformer, the next thing I did was train a spatial temporal graph convolutional network. Now, this is a graph-based network. What does that mean? It means you have to establish nodes and edges. So we're literally building a skeletal graph. Every single joint is a node. So the knees, the hips, the legs, etc. And then your edges are the limbs. Similarly, I defined a pose of 21 frames. 21 frames is about 1/3 of a second at 60 frames per second. And we're tracking these joint pose movements over time. Let's walk through an example. So let's say I'm tracking the knee of a basketball player. At time 0, we establish the node of where the knee is and the edge from the knee to the hip. At time 1, the player is moved. So now you have to update your node position and then you have to update your edge. So really understanding that spatial relationship of how one joint is moving relative to another. So you might be wondering, why do you use a transformer versus a GCN? Well, transformers have global self-attention. They're better for long-range context. If you have a very long time series, if you want to look at a lot of data over time, transformer is very good. Transformers also have variable inputs, right? So when you use ChatGPT, you're feeding in text. In my case, I'm using different joint positions. Now, in contrast, the GCN is a graph-based network. It's harder to convert your data because everything has to be in a graph format, but it's very good at capturing local spatial temporal features. How's the wrist moving relative to the knee? How are the hips moving relative to the shoulder? So I trained my model using all 155 different combinations that I mentioned. For the transformer, I took the best results and then fed it into a GCN. So 9 pairs, again, with 16 different joints. You can see from the blue circles, this achieved about 92% accuracy. 1 pair was just the left and right wrist. This got 89% accuracy. So by reducing the joints from 16 to 2, we only lost 3% accuracy. In other words, we maintained high accuracy with a reduced number of joints. You can also see the per class accuracy in the histogram bars, with purple representing rebounds. You may notice that the rebounds were the lowest accuracy. Again, this data was the least consistent and harder for the model to generalize. The best overall GCN was with 4 pairs, actually. So the best results I got were with the shoulders, elbows, wrist, and heels. This got about 93% overall accuracy, whereas just all 9 joints with 92% accuracy. When you isolate just the wrist, with the transformer, we also got 89%. So in both cases, we can maintain high accuracy by drastically reducing the number of joints. So here's a confusion matrix. It shows the diagonal show how many were predicted correctly. So on the left, you can see the number of events that were correctly identified. On the right, you can see this in percentage form. So dribbles, passes, and shots all got over 90% accuracy, whereas rebounds were around 80%, and they were commonly misclassified as passes. So the model mistook a rebound for a pass in many scenarios. So why does fewer joints work? You may be wondering, isn't more information always better? Well, you have to have the model focus on specific criteria. Maybe understanding how the nose moves isn't as important as understanding how the wrists are moving. So when we remove joints, we remove noise of unnecessary information. By doing this, the GCN can now concentrate on learning motions of crucial joints. Now, I'm not saying that removing joints makes the accuracy better in all cases, but rather that certain joints are more important than others. From our analysis, we saw that the wrist and the elbows were the most impactful joints. So when you look at those 155 combinations that included the wrist and elbows performed way better than ones that did not include these 2 joints. So why is this important? Well, this work proves that you can reduce joints and maintain high model accuracy. At 60 frames per second, tracking 10 players every frame and 29 joints per player is very computationally intensive. You're analyzing a lot of data over time. By reducing joints, you can increase compute efficiency, allowing for faster model deployment. This methodology opens up a new field where you can have cheaper, more scalable, and efficient model deployment in a basketball scenario, reducing the need for costly hardware or supercomputers. So this work is currently under review at the Journal of Sports Analytics and should be submitted soon or published soon. Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Jadal. Appreciate your presentation and sharing more about the work that you're doing with the MBA. Well, I want to welcome to the stage next is Kynnedy to chat a bit more about her work and as probably the newest of our PhD students and candidates here. Appreciate you making time, Kynnedy, to share. Maybe you can just start sharing a little bit with the audience about your background generally, an overall introduction, and then we'll kind of dive into a bit about your specific work at AI at CMU as well.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Kynnedy. I am a Ron Brown Scholar, class of 2021. I'm a recent graduate from Columbia University, where I double majored in computer science and cognitive science, and I specialized in AI and human-computer interaction. And now I'm a first-year PhD student at Carnegie Mellon. I focus on human-computer interaction, and more specifically, I work on creating cultural competence tools for both human alignment and AI human alignment.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a bit about that last piece. Certainly, we know a decent amount about bias human to human, and we're starting to think about bias as it relates to AI and all of the presentations, Jay's in particular highlight some of that. Tell us a little bit about the nuances between those two different types of bias that you're studying.
So there's lots of research and news out there about how our AI systems can be biased, but we also know that these tools kind of build off data sets that are lacking information about specific metrics, and specifically they're built by people who have their own biases. And so in my research, I'm really interested in the bias that humans actually have, especially coming from that cognitive science background, and seeing if we could use technology to help people understand, one, their own biases, two, how to help them actually understand the perspectives of others, despite them coming from different or even opposing viewpoints and communities, and three, finding ways for people to be able to communicate better across boundaries. And so I kind of rooted this in a concept of cultural intelligence, which is very vague, but the essential definition, and there's actually an established center for cultural intelligence that's kind of rooted in business and leadership. And they define cultural intelligence as the ability to learn and adapt to cultures that are different from your own. There's actually 4 different subtypes of cultural intelligence. There's cultural intelligence drive, which is your motivation and curiosity to engage across cultures. There's the knowledge aspect, which is your actual understanding of the values, ways of thinking, stereotypes of people from different communities. There's strategy, which is the ability to plan and adjust based on cultural differences, and also action. So actually being able to change your behavior or adapt to different communities, identities, scenarios, etc. And so I'm really interested in how one AI can actually do these 4 different types of, how AI can show these 4 different types of cultural intelligence, and then also how we can thoughtfully create tools to help people build these skills on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's well said. Is cultural intelligence, would you consider it common amongst folks who are building with AI? Know about this, think about this, and act upon it? Or is this an area that everyone, including folks who may know a lot about other areas of intelligence, still have a lot of room to grow in?
I would say it's something that everyone has and has room to grow in. Obviously, in the way that our communities are set up, we're pretty isolated, and who we may interact with on a day-to-day basis, or the information that we take in. And also when you look at our community, this work is actually inspired by things that I've seen. Like, for example, if you remember in 2018, that wrestler who had to shave his locks so that he could participate in a match. Or there's even papers, like issues in the research community where people will actually publish paper, and it's the title is investigating the differences between deaf and dumb people and normal people in research. These are things that come out on a day-to-day basis. And since there's kind of a lack of set public accountability and public education about how these things and how these microaggressions actually affect different communities, especially beyond culture, that is something that I want to create tools to help people practice. And also from an AI lens, we think about this bias on the AI front, where we're saying AI, is statistically worse at recognizing faces of people of color, Black women, compared to, say, a white male. But what we look into less is how the way someone might identify or use a specific AI tool or technology platform in general, how that identity changes the way that they interact. A really cool example that I like to talk about is Pinterest. I think they actually have a somewhat very culturally competent algorithm. So you can go on Pinterest, and they have a computer vision algorithm that understands what a protective hairstyle is, or what different types of hair types are, so that someone can go and actually search for those things. Whereas before they had that algorithm, I had to search protective, 4C, etc., looking for the ways that other people were tagging it. So I'm essentially developing frameworks and methodologies for people to insert cultural intelligence into previously existing AI tools, and then also looking at how we can create educational tools for people to learn about cultural intelligence. And I can talk about a paper that I just submitted that actually focuses on that education bit.
Yeah, please. Yeah. You can dive in there.
So yeah, something I recently submitted, my actually first author submission I submitted to Kai this year is work that I did with Microsoft Research. And so I was looking at specifically teaching people how to understand the biases in their language while they're writing. So remember I said, oh, there's this research paper that was published last year and they're talking about deaf and dumb people versus normal people. Like, how can we get a tool that helps people understand that these things can be considered very offensive depending on the community they're from? And so I developed a tool that uses both the voices of people in the disabled community and AI input to identify, explain, and correct ableist language in written text. So I worked with over 300 people from the disability community to understand how we even go about doing this. It's almost kind of like a Grammarly for bias, but it's less punitive. Like Grammarly gives you a score. It tells you that you're wrong. This tool says, for example, the term deaf and dumb is considered ableist because it perpetuates stereotypes that people with disabilities are less intelligent. And then it will suggest a way for you to correct that language in a way that's considered more inclusive. And so I had over 300 people with disabilities actually do this task. And I also had AI. I developed an AI that can do this task. And I had people who are experts in disability studies and who also have disabilities themselves kind of compare the difference between these two annotations, the AI versus human ones. And we found that AI was actually very, very good at this task. Actually, they had the exact same agreement rates. People with disabilities agreed with the AI annotations versus the human annotations at both like a 7% acceptance rate. And people actually ended up preferring more of the AI annotations because of the way that it gave a more neutral tone in the way that it was describing the rationale behind why something was ableist. So like our next step is, throughout the paper, I talk about like the differences between the human annotations and the AI annotations and how we can merge them together to create something that could hopefully teach people about bias and ableism in their own writing on a day-to-day basis. And what I'm doing in the follow-up work is actually creating something that combines the data set that I made of the human annotations with my AI model to test it on people to see people without disabilities to see, oh, like, do they actually learn concepts behind bias, etc., through their writing by using this tool.
Yeah.
In general, yeah, if anyone's interested in looking at socially aligned AI and particularly AI that actually helps people become better humans rather than just super productive and isolated humans, please reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat, and I think my LinkedIn is also on the outline for today.
Sweet. Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Kynnedy. I appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Awesome, y'all. So we're going to transition now from our PhDs and our academic talks to some of our AI founders and builders who are going to show off some of the cool things we're doing. We're going to have first to kick things off is Dorian. Dorian, thank you so much for being here and for taking the time to show us a little bit of what you're doing. The floor is yours to share what you're working on with Doji. Excited to see you.
Wonderful. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, we can see you.
Okay, great. Hey, everyone. I'm Dorian, RBS 2007. It's crazy because I remember being RBS and it feels like it was just yesterday, and it's nearly almost 20 years ago, which is insane. I can't even believe that. Yeah, I'm excited to talk more about Doji. For those of you who don't know, Doji is a fun new way to shop for fashion online. And I guess to give you guys a bit of context, and then I'll just kind of jump into what it is. And then I want to leave some time for questions as well. Doji we're about a year and a half old, so we're pretty young as a company. You know, I originally sort of conceived of the idea of Doji just being a sort of avid fashion shopper myself. I've never worked in fashion. I've always kind of worked in tech, and I'll tell you a bit about my background as well. But me and my co-founder, Jim, we're both into fashion and realized that there were kind of two main problems that we were facing. The first is it's a lot of work to shop for fashion online. And as creative as of an industry as fashion is, the actual process of buying things is just not a lot of fun, at least online. And the second thing was we just literally could not try clothes online, which is something that I think everyone's wanted for a very long time. Many of you may remember the movie Clueless with Alicia Silverstone kind of back in the day. And it's kind of been this dream, I think, since then to be able to like pick out clothes and experiment. And that's essentially what we do, which I'll tell you more about. Again, a bit about me, and this is my co-founder, Jim, as well. My background is a mixture of startups in big tech. I worked at a company called YouNow, then went to Meta to do VR, and then eventually went to the Apple design team and worked on Vision Pro. And so I've had the chance to work on a lot of frontier technologies. Also did undergrad at MIT, and my co-founder Jim has a background in deep learning and in AI, which has kind of equipped us to do what we're doing. So let me just show you how Doji works. Conceptually, it's pretty simple. So you create an AI likeness. We use diffusion models to create pretty realistic likeness of you that you can use to try on clothes. You can try on anything on the internet. So literally whatever you want, you can grab a link, paste it in Doji, and we'll pull it in and you can try it on. But we also have a number of different products, mostly luxury products that are on our platform. And you can experiment and combine different things. I'll show you how that works. And then, yeah, you can shop your favorite looks. You can organize them, share with friends. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully these videos are working for you guys. But I figured this would be the most efficient way to do a demo. And I'll just talk over this. But this is actually the Doji UI. So the first thing is creating an AI likeness. What we do is we take 6 selfies and 2 full body images of you. And with that, we can create a pretty good likeness of you. In case you couldn't realize this is me. And yeah, you can literally try on anything. So there are products that we have on the platform, as I mentioned. You can just tap on any of these products or import your own product. And you can either try it on right away, or you can go to Look Studio, which is a way for you to actually style different, tops or bottoms together. So this is showing that you can actually select particular trousers that you want, specific shoes. So you can kind of style it from scratch if you want, or we can actually help you with that. And so there's a feature called Style Me. And at the bottom here on the left, you can see a little style button, which you can do to sort of, if you need inspiration, we have algorithms to kind of pull that together. And, we really believe that actually we want you to feel like you're styling it versus us styling it for you, because we want you to be creative, but that's how it works. And then, once you have looks that you like, you can save those looks. You basically have a profile and a way to kind of view them. So these are all little mini me's, different looks that I've saved. And within that look, you can actually break it down and kind of see the different items. You can save them to a wish list. And if you want, you can just buy those items. So I can tap the buy button here. This is from Essence, and it will take me to the external website or app where I can make that purchase. And in the future, we'll have the ability to buy it directly on Doji. And then I think the last thing worth kind of mentioning is, our users are currently Doji's invite only. So not everyone has access, but the people that do, are obsessed with it, and they share it not just with their friends, but they share it publicly, like what we're doing here, which is Instagram. And people have made organic content on TikTok about it. So we were actually surprised how publicly people have been wanting to share images themselves, but they love it. And I think I hinted at this earlier, but our goal is to really make fashion shopping feel fun. And I think this particular use case is a great use of AI that is not AI slop, but it feels personal. It's putting you at the center of it, and we try to do that in a really tasteful way. As I mentioned, it's currently invite only. People are loving it. We do have people on our wait list, but if you guys like to try, there's going to be an invite code at the end of this deck. We've also had some press. I won't stay on this too long, but if you Google us, you can see some of it. I don't put too much stock in this, but it's nice to know that people are excited about what we're doing. And I don't think I mentioned this, but we recently raised our seed round, 14 mil seed in May. And so, yeah, we're a small team of about 10 people right now, and we're heads down kind of building the next phase of Doji, which we think is the future of fashion shopping. So I'll take any questions if you guys have them. And if you want to try it, just go to doji.com/invite. It'll take you to the App Store if you have an iOS app or an iOS phone. And then you can download the app and use code 00PBJ to sign up. So I will stop that. And if anyone has questions, let me know.
Awesome. Thanks, Dorian. I'm sure people do, and we've got jam-packed. So I'm going to kind of capture those questions to you, and maybe I'll just shoot them over to you if you can. And let me know if there's a way, I know some folks might have seen it, that you'd like me to share that invite code or to share it out in addition to the website too. But thank you. Thank you for taking the time to show us a little bit what you're working on. Belated congrats again on the raise earlier this year. And yeah, we're all rooting for you and excited to see what you guys are doing. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Dorian. Next, we're going to have Matt.
All right. Thank you, Ray. Hey, team. At Wood, class of 2013. Went to Brown in undergrad, and I can be a representative of folks that maybe did not come from a technical background, but wanted to get into the AI game. I think there are a lot of beautiful ways to upskill, to learn, to immerse yourself, and that it takes a lot of different types of perspectives to shape products like this. So it's been really nice to hear how folks have been approaching that from an equity lens, from a builder lens, from operator. So I wanted to provide a little context. I work for ElevenLabs. We are an audio AI platform for both community members, creators, and developers. We are kind of leading the way when it comes to speech models, particularly in terms of TTS, text to speech, as well as speech to speech. And we recently also just launched our music product. I think audio AI has been really fascinating for me. I came into the space from an ed tech angle. I was building agents for personalized learning experiences, similar language experiences, as well as kind of Duolingo. And then realizing that audio was going to be this next layer that I feel like has not really reached that level of maturity yet. We've all seen a kind of a little bit of a brief interlude where something kind of breaks. There's this hesitation, there's a tenor that's not quite there. And so today I'm going to be demoing some of our products here at ElevenLabs that are really great to play with and for your personal projects, but also to bring to work. You can use these to build agents, to build workflows, call centers, mental health apps, coaches. Today, I'm going to give an example of a fitness coach for people that are looking for, a new buddy who's got an experience level to help you in the gym. And so I'm going to get into that today. And I think also at the end, I just wanted to touch on some of the equity piece, particularly with intellectual property, as I think audio is one of kind of the first experiences that we're seeing of what do we do about likeliness? What do we do about your arts, your gifts, your persona? We have a whole legal team that touches on that. And so that's something that I also want folks to think about is how are we also leaning into that lens as creators and as a culture. So today I'm just going to get a quick demo on some of the audio elements here. Going to show you how kind of some voice cloning would work, and then how you would turn that into an agent for use in your personal projects, but also in terms of building workflows. So here you have kind of the dashboard from the creator platform. I know there's a lot of bells and whistles here, so I'm just going to give a quick overview. So we have the creative and the agents platform. Creative, that could be for folks who are thinking about creating a YouTube channel, for folks that want to create a podcast but are worried about how to start there, or vocal and consonants. This could be a really great tool for you to be able to maybe prompt it out, use your own likeliness and voice, and figure out what the flow of an ideal podcast could look like. We have some pretty advanced technologies of figuring out how long it takes for you to be able to clone your voice. You can do it either kind of an instant in 10 seconds, or you can do a professional voice clone. When we're working with celebrities, we have some big stars like will.i.am and the folks who are coming in next week. They want to make sure that their voices are, cloned to the nth ability. But if you're just using for, let's say, a school project, you probably don't need something that is as long in terms of the inputs that you're putting in to this voice cloning. So here we go. Hey everyone, my name is Matt. I'm a 2013 RBS scholar. Super excited here to engage with other folks within the AI space. I currently live in San Francisco, California. Okay. And so from there, you're able to kind of move on to the next step. It's going to take a little bit of buffering time. We can say RBS voice. And then also in terms of a language, we're able to put it into a range of 30 different languages at the moment. We're currently expanding that. And so here you're also, when I'm talking about that likeness, that you're using these samples for good purposes. There's a lot of areas for bad actors. There were aspects where people were trying to use this to get into banking information. And so this is something that constantly our safety team is having to address, and something that there's a lot of space here to innovate forward. Okay, so from there, you could go to narrate a story, generate a speech, but actually I want to skip those steps and kind of move forward and thinking about how we could then affect their voice, how we could change it. Here you can move into sound effects. We have our different aspects within our Halloween, and then we can also do text to speech. So here we have kind of a simple hello. If I'm thinking about making a personal agent, we can also put different tags for inflections. When previous cloning and TTS structures came out, this was a really, really baseline model that folks were using. There wasn't, in terms of those inflections, that pause, that laughter, and that's something with our latest V3 model, something that you could play around with, of being able to code within the prompt, how do you want vocal production to come out? Do you want it to be slow? Do you want it to be happy, excited? And then what voice you can use for it. So here I can go about and type in Matt, RBS voice, that voice that we just cloned. And then going on further, this is what we wanted to use, the different stability points. And so you can kind of buffer back and forth, and then you can go ahead and generate that speech. It's going to give you a couple of options.
How's it going? How you been for real, for real? Hey girl, how's it going? How you been for real, for real?
And then you can go in and then also change the voices as long as you have those permission sets.
Hey girl, how's it going? How you been for real, for real?
Right? And so this is a kind of a fun tool that you can use to play around, whether it's for content, for it's a video games, whether it's just avatar that you wanted to use. So if you wanted to have an overlay for your fashion agent, as we just talked before, you could have someone talk to you in any type of way, in any type of tone and language. From there, you can go over into the agents platform. And in this agents platform, you're going to have a range of tools that are a little bit more on the technical side. But I would say as a non-technical person, there are plenty of things that you can go and build. You can create a new agent, start from personal, let's say business. I'm going to say for this one, particularly for the university students, if you want someone to kind of code with you or have you, but I'm choosing health and wellness. And then so for this demo, I wanted to do the fitness, as I mentioned, and ASM certified, and going and training at the gym 3 to 4 times a week. And then from there, you're going to have a series of prompts that are going to help your agent be able to build what you need. So if people are a little confused about how to start prompting, there's already a markdown format there in terms of your structure. And this has a wide range of information just from that initial prompt. You can go ahead and change those voices. I can use my own if I wanted to. If I want to talk to myself, likely not. And then from there, you can go ahead and play around with those tools. So with that being said, I think this is just a fraction of what we're able to do on the AI audio side. ElevenLabs and a host of other competitors are doing a lot of great things. And I think if people are trying to bridge that comfortability gap, that this audio element is something that you're going to have to quite focus on. And then from kind of an equity piece, something that I'm really proud of the organization is that we are leaning into the way that disability justice and who can use these tools is a part of the equation too. So we are working with institutions with ALS and folks that are physically losing their voice because of degenerative diseases and are able to clone different voices from audio notes, from voicemails, from VHS tapes, from CDs. And so we can use that to help people get voice again who otherwise may not have. So I definitely wanted to underline that people can go in multiple directions with the way that they use audio. And it's my hope, and I'm hoping to align with an organization that has those principles in mind. So thank you, team.
Okay. I will now pass the stage over to Tyrone.
So I'm Tyrone, co-founder of Miyagi Labs. We are an AI company that is in the edtech space. We do AI for exam prep. So you can think of SAT, ACT. SAT prep is our main product. So we have a question bank with thousands of questions, verified questions from the College Board, and then questions that we've generated using AI. We have score predictors, so high school students can predict their SAT score with a 12-question diagnostic, practice exams from questions in our question bank, and then we have an AI tutor as well that students can use if they need help with problems and whatnot. So I'll show you a bit here. So it's our practice mode. You can slice and dice our question bank if you're studying for the SAT, different tools. Let's begin practicing. So yeah, so this is basically a feed of problems. You can just drill. When I was studying for the SAT, I ran out of problems I found online. So here you can hone in on a specific skill, specific category, and just do problem after problem. If you need a hint, you can see on the right side, our AI tutor will give you a hint, get explanations. You can see all the explanations. Next problem. So you sort of get the point. It's just a lot of problems in drilling. You can see your progress. So we gamify the practice as well. So you get ratings for different categories of the SAT. So for example, you'll see here in a minute, you can think about it like chess, where you have an ELA rating. Whenever you do a problem, it's you versus that problem. So for example, here, so you can see my craft and structure rating is 968 versus my expression of ideas is 1004. So I'm best at standard English conventions. So this is a quick way for you to diagnose what you're weakest at, what you're best at. Math. My math ratings are quite low because I'm often doing a lot of problems just to make sure things are working. Not necessarily doing it for accuracy, but looking at problems and doing. So my ratings are quite low, but the base rating is 1,000, and if you're very good, it'd be higher than 1,000. If you need help, it's lower than 1,000. And you can see your recent activity on different problems, and that's the crux of the site. In its current state, we have over 35,000 students using it across the country. And we recently reached over 1 million problems solved on the platform about 2 weeks ago. I'll show you our full-length practice exam. Our practice exam takes questions from our question bank in the same distribution as the SAT. So, a mix of easy, medium, and hard, and 20% expression of ideas, 20%. You can get the idea. It's broken up in the same distribution and category and skill and difficulty as the SAT. That's essentially exactly what we have.
That's awesome. Thank you, Tyrone. And I know we chatted earlier this year after you left YC. You were not at 35,000 and a million questions. So hats off to you. Is it as simple as going to MiyagiLabs.ai to get started, or do you have any other call to actions for people to share this?
Yeah, it's directly MiyagiLabs.ai. Click the SAT prep button and you'll be directed directly to the SAT practice center. It's free, and you can drill as many problems as you want for free. The AI tutor is a paid feature after, I think, 10 messages with the tutor, but it's free. So start practicing. We plan to add the ACT in the next few weeks as well, if you take the ACT. And yeah, and just on growth, we got very lucky on Instagram. A lot of Instagram marketing, a lot of videos. Several of our videos went viral. 100,000, 800,000 views, and it's high school students. I have my SAT this weekend. What's the link? But yeah, that's all.
Awesome. Thank you, Tyrone. All right. So I will now pass the mic over to Njeri.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. It's so great to be here in this space. My name is Njeri Grevious. I am a senior product manager at Microsoft working on Copilot. I'm also RBS class of 2013. I am here to talk about some of the things that are going on in the Microsoft space around AI. Typically, you might have heard of OpenAI. You might have heard of so many of other generative AI solutions that are out there. But at Microsoft, we have Copilot because we truly believe that you are the pilot as a human, and Copilot is your co-pilot meant to assist you from a computational lens. And then together, you as the human in the loop with Copilot can do great things together and have that augmented intelligence and capabilities. And so I'm going to walk you through just some of the exciting things that we have going on, just to make sure that you're fully aware of what's happening in our space. So give me a second. I will go ahead and share my window. Okay, awesome. Just to give you a little bit of anatomy, if you haven't checked out Copilot yet, I highly encourage you to. The link that you need to use is copilot.com. And so I recently did a presentation in Baltimore at the Women of Color Waves of Change conference in Baltimore. And what we discussed there was how to actually use Copilot to be an effective person in your workday and in your school day. And so I just wanted to kind of make sure that you know that at m365copilot.com, you can access Microsoft's Copilot system. You actually can get it for free pretty much with your work or your school account, because oftentimes organizations have M365 Enterprise available and Copilot comes with that. And so what does Copilot chat look like? We'll kind of go through that together. But if you're looking to kind of download this and kind of have it with you on the go, I wanted to kind of quickly kind of flash up this QR code so that way you can go ahead and immediately today download the Copilot app. This is going to be your work or school access to AI via Microsoft, and I highly recommend you check it out. Now for the cool things and the step-by-step anatomy. So when you get Copilot and you go to m365copilot.com, you will see something like this. This is kind of showing you your input box. You can go ahead and you can add your work content. You can upload content. You can attach cloud content. You can even chat with an agent here. You'll see these buttons here. This is kind of a dictation button. This is a real-time voice button. So dictation allows you to dictate your prompt into Copilot. Real-time voice allows you to speak to Copilot as if it's a person, kind of like how it's been demoed before. Now, in the top of the screen here, you see a work and a web tab. This is available to those who have a Copilot license. That way they can access their work data. If you don't have a Copilot license, you'll just see this screen and you'll be able to access all your web data here. But what's nice is that we actually made a change so that way if you don't have a Copilot license, that doesn't mean that you can't do anything with your Word documents, Excel documents. We rolled out a capability over the past month that allows you to actually access Copilot in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and very, very soon in Teams. We are in public preview for chat capabilities in Teams so that way you can have Copilot right up at your fingertips there. Now, no matter what endpoint you're using, this is how the general layout of Copilot is. And so in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see Try GPT. This is a really, really exciting button because when you turn it on, you can go ahead and use GPT-5 today, which is going to be super, super awesome. And you can use this button here to either enable a kind of chat right here to start a new chat or to do a temporary chat, because we know sometimes you might be working on sensitive information. And so this temporary chat button allows you to do just that. right? So this is kind of the exciting layout that we have going on. On the left-hand side, you can obviously see that we're in the chat window, but you can also access search. This is AI-powered Copilot search. It allows you to find content across your organization and gives you answers from your organization that are AI generated, as well as all your search results. We also have a library of different apps and experiences, an ability to kind of generate in images and create, as well as some of our flagship agents. One of my favorite agents is actually called Researcher. This allows you to go ahead and do things such as like provide an executive status on a project or update me on a topic. And so this allows you to do some in-depth research, and it's super cool because we also enabled Claude models in Researcher. And so we just rolled out this capability in public preview for you to try Anthropic models in Researcher, and we'll continue to expand our models in Copilot across the board. So enough about kind of all the things that are going on there. I did want to show you some powerful capabilities because I think the power of Copilot comes in you being able to use it right in Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the M365 apps. So let's take an example. Just to give you a bit of background, I'm doing my MPH right now. So I'm back in school. Crazy after all these years. I'm finally back in school. I'm getting my MPH, my Master's in Public Health and Health Equity. And so we released a capability that is super, super cool that allows you to leverage Copilot in Excel. So let me show you how I got to this window. In Excel, you'll have your workbook. On the Home tab, you'll be able to go ahead and see the Copilot button. Go ahead and select Chat here, and this is the window that you'll see. So it's very much like the M365copilot.com space where you can go ahead and see your prompt input box like you see here and all this other things. That's super, super exciting. But what's even more powerful is what you can do with this. And so in addition to seeing all the normal buttons and whistles that you normally get access to, you get access to additional capabilities here and what we call agent mode. So we just announced what we call vibe working at Microsoft. This is the ability to actually have Copilot do things for you, not just ask it things and chat with it and have conversations and plan things, but also to do analysis on your behalf. And so we're going to do an example of that together so you can see how cool this really is. And so I'm going to put in the chat a problem that I got in my practice set. So I get a lot of practice problems in my MPH, and I get a practice problem that's asking me to do some statistical analysis with a new drug that involves like a certain number of participants, yada, yada, yada. I kind of just want to be walked through this practice problem so I can see what I need to do, because oftentimes these calculations are done in Excel as part of my program. So let me go ahead and submit this to Copilot and see what it comes up with. Now it's going to go ahead and it's thinking. So Copilot is taking its thinking time and it's creating the analysis for me and it's walking me through its thought process. What this is called in generative AI is chain of thought reasoning, the ability for you to actually see how the AI is working through the problem. It's that it's organizing material, it's preparing the data, it knows it's doing a paired t-test. It's so, so smart. So I don't know. I just got so hype about it because it's just so cool that you can access this. And with agent mode, you'll notice up here that we have a try Claude button, which is super, super awesome. So now it's finalizing calculations, getting ready to wrap up. Let's see what it comes up with. All right. And we'll also do an exercise to check its work. All right. So finalizing calculations, getting its thing together does take a second because it's working really hard, but it will come up in a moment. Cool. It's finalizing the table and letting you know that it's coming on its last step. And pretty soon, you're going to start to see things populate in Excel because it's actually going ahead and doing this on your behalf right there. So now you can see it populated all your content, calculated the mean difference, and now it's going ahead and putting down all the different statistical variables that you'll need. It's also fixing mistakes as it goes. And so it's like, wait, I found a mistake. Let me fix the formula range so that way it could be truly accurate. And then it's correcting headers and adding other types of analysis here. So it's also really, really cool because it's walking you through its thought process in a way that's kind of easy to understand. So that way you don't feel like you're out of the loop here. You're very much still a human in the loop. So it's calculating this, adjusting, I appreciate y'all's patience as this loads. All right, Copilot. Meanwhile, while this is, okay, perfect. Wanted to go ahead and show this. See, look at this. all of the analysis that it did, it was able to populate directly in Excel. I didn't have to touch anything, do anything. It just did it for me. So it took all the data that I had, did a paired t-test summary, which is something that statisticians use to decide statistical significance of the results. And so just to give you a heads up, this particular study in this practice problem was about, hey, we have 8 patients. They did a cholesterol treatment to lower their cholesterol. Here's some of the numbers they had at baseline, what happened 6 weeks after, what the difference is, and here's kind of the statistics that we can use to be able to determine, was this treatment effective? And so that's the ultimate question here. Now, if you've taken a stats class before, which I haven't in years, despite having a math degree, you know that your t-value here, your two-tailed p-value actually is going to be something that's going to be very helpful in determining statistical significance. Not only do you have your confidence interval here, but you also have your p-value. Now, we used a 95% confidence interval here. So if you remember your stats class from way back when, 0.05, if your p-value is less than 0.05, it is significant, but if it's greater, it's not significant. And look at this. Here, this p-value says 0.072, which is greater than 0.05, and that means no significant difference. And so Copilot not only calculated, it also lets you know the difference here. And also it reasoned for you. So look at this. It kind of set up my workbook, said, hey, I found 8 matching pairs. Here's the mean baseline. Here's the mean difference. Here's the cholesterol data that I entered. Here are the assumptions that I did. And I can always show more details and see exactly how it calculated everything, which is super awesome. Oh my gosh. And so you can actually format this further. And it also said, hey, I know the problem said n equals 10, but I only got 8 pairs. Let me know if you have additional data, and it'll update it automatically. So that's just a super exciting exercise there. Now, how do we know if this is even right? So thankfully, I have the answer guide here. And if we zoom in, you'll see the statistically significant difference is p equals 0.072, which is exactly what Copilot calculated. And you can see that because 0.072 is greater. This is something that, was deemed as not statistically significant here. But if we had the one-sided value, it would be. So this was a really interesting exercise, and Copilot was able to do it all for me. And if I wanted to use the Claude model instead to do this, instead of Microsoft's underlying LLM infrastructure, I could. I think I've gone almost over time. I have a Word document open here too, where you can see some similar analysis, but you notice that when you open Word, there's already an ability to draft with Copilot here. And the same layout happens as well, where you can go ahead and press this Copilot button to open up Copilot, and it will go ahead and do the same thing to allow you to kind of go ahead and do your work within chat and Copilot, but also access agent mode and build your own content with agent mode in Word as well. And so just wanted to show this as a capability that's allowed to Copilot licensed users. This is something super exciting, and I hope you can check it out, and I'll include a link in the chat. I'll stop sharing and take any questions if we have time, but I figured we went over.
No, Njeri, that was great. Maybe just a quick one I wanted to ask you. I know others will have it too. You're in your MPH program now. Anything exciting outside of your capacity of Copilot in the public health realm with AI?
Absolutely. So I'm doing my master's in public health at BU, and I'm concentrating in health equity. And my particular focus is looking at ways that we can bring AI into the health research space. I work for a health research nonprofit called the Health Experiences Research Network, and I'm finding ways to be able to improve the pace of narrative health research using AI. So when you're doing narrative health research, you have to interview, gather transcripts, video, audio, all that information. And you spend much of your research time just coding, trying to translate all of that data that you got from talking to people into actionable materials and themes. Using AI effectively in this space could significantly reduce the barriers to access that a lot of teams have to get into the health research space for them to be able to do narrative research at scale. And so my interest is using AI as a way to remove barriers to help researchers, especially interdisciplinary researchers and underrepresented researchers, be able to do effective narrative research without being barred by funding grants and requirements that often are enormous just to be able to have the manpower to kind of go through all of that. So anyway, that's a little bit of what I do. Excited to share more at another session, but really grateful for the time. Thank you so much, Ray. Problem. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Roman, whenever you're ready, I will pass the stage over to you. I know you wear many hats and are here in your Burton algorithms capacity, either at the beginning or the end. Just make sure you chat a little bit about what Breakthrough is and some of the work you're doing there too.
Sure. Ray, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to present a little bit about the work I've done with Burton algorithms. And hello, everybody. To give an introduction on myself, my name is Roman Scott. I study computer science at Stanford. I got my master's in management science and engineering, and I was recently accepted early into Harvard Law School and Harvard Business School through their deferred JD MBA program. So I'll be doing that in a couple of years. In terms of what I do on the AI side is I run a software engineering firm called Burton Algorithms. And we're a team of AI engineers. And what we do is we go into companies and help them build AI models in order to increase their operational efficiency and to increase the revenue of their businesses. And so what I'm going to do is share my screen to go over a presentation of my business. Are you able to see my screen properly?
Yep.
Okay, so this is Burton Algorithms. And a lot of people ask me, like, why is it called Burton Algorithms? I named it after my grandfather, in memory of him. And so, what we are is we're a team of engineers. And what we do is we develop customized AI models and large language model solutions for real estate, healthcare, and financial services, namely private equity firms. And so this is a little bit, this is a little bit of my team right here. And a lot of the people on my team are people I just went to school with, friends that I lived in my dorm with as well. And so the vast majority of us are out of Stanford. And in terms of what our business does, our expertise is fourfold. We develop language models specifically for, particular industry domains. So that includes healthcare, financial services, events, services, things of that nature. And we develop a lot of our work consists of developing AI agents in order to automate workflows. And that's like one of the biggest use cases for AI right now is how do you automate very manual or inefficient processes within organizations in order to really get the most out of the people at your company and really just be able to help your company scale faster and be able to serve like more clients, more customers, things of that nature. So we develop conversational agents, voice agents that can essentially either call or interact with other people on like their behalf. We do a lot of like data analysis work. So we use AI for, data science and document intelligence. And then we also do product development as well. So we develop and design full stack mobile and web applications for consumer and enterprise use cases. In terms of the experience of our team, most of us went to Stanford or Harvard, and we've worked at a variety of companies, including Meta, Google, Amazon, and BlackRock. And in terms of some of the projects that we've worked with, we've done work across a variety of industries. One of our clients was Zipcar. We were helping them with some AI automation workflows. And essentially the demo that I'm going to show you guys today is kind of one of the applications that we use for AI in healthcare. And so this is a case study of one of the businesses that we worked with. And it's a company called CareGuide. And what they are is they're a healthcare advocacy firm that renegotiates medical bills on behalf of patients and employer insurance plans. So for context, within the healthcare space, there is a lot of pricing and transparency. And, oftentimes like when you're getting a bill from a hospital, $100,000, it should really cost, maybe 10, 15 or $20,000. But because of pricing and transparency, hospitals are able to essentially jack up the price of, line items in the bill. And if you don't know how to contest it, then you're going to be stuck overpaying for your hospital bills. So what this company does is they renegotiate hospital bills on behalf of patients. And so what I'm going to do is kind of show you the process that they used to do and the new process that we were able to come in and implement with AI. So this is the platform that we developed for them. And this is kind of the process that they do. So you get a hospital bill that costs $60,000, right? And what this company does is they used to manually go line by line through every item in this hospital bill in order to essentially figure out, okay, like how much this line item right here, an HC coronary artery angio, right? The hospital is charging $11,000, but it really shouldn't cost $11,000. So what this company used to do is they would have to get what's called the CPT code, which is a medical billing code for this line item, and then they would look up in Medicare, like how much Medicare was charging for it, and then they would essentially they do this lookup right here. And what you can see is if you click right here, is that Medicare is paying $3,400 for this line item, which means that this line item really costs $3,000 instead of $11,000. So you're overpaying for this line item by $8,000. And what they had to do is, in order to renegotiate the bill, you have to go through every line item of this bill and do this kind of back and forth analysis. So what we did is we built out an AI model that does the analysis for you. So you upload a hospital bill and it automatically reprices it. So, originally it was supposed to be $60,000. and it gets repriced to $28,000. And it goes and shows you, like, here's the breakdown of how much the hospital is charging, how much Medicare charges. It does this for every line item of the bill. It shows you the savings as well per line item. And then, what we do at the very end is we provide essentially like summary of like that this company can send to the hospital to say like, hey, like, here is how you are overcharging on this hospital bill. And so what the result of that system was that we implemented this at the beginning of this year. And it's basically going to take essentially double the revenue of their company in the span of over the course of a year. And that is just one of the use cases for AI within healthcare that we developed. But in terms of the use cases that we do, we develop it for every industry. For those in the chat that are software engineers, feel free to reach out to me because the way our business operates is it's a consultancy based model. And so what we do is we hire engineers at different schools on a part-time basis. So if you guys need to develop your skill sets, or if you guys want to make some income during college, feel free to reach out to me. Another thing that Ray mentioned that I'm involved with is an organization called Breakthrough. What we are is we're the nation's largest accelerator for underrepresented student founders. And what we do is for those of you that are interested in AI and interested in working on startups, is essentially $1,000 into you or 1% equity in the company. We'll also give you cute credits, and we'll fly you out to Stanford for a demo day in front of 500 investors. So we started this program last year. The founders in our program have raised over $62 million in venture capital. And so we're going to be doing this again next year in May. So if you're interested in either working for Burton Algorithms or being a part of Breakthrough, just reach out to me, Roman Scott. My email is rbscott@stanford.edu. I can put in the chat. But thank you so much for your time, and I really appreciate it. And I'm happy to answer any questions that if anybody has them.
Awesome, Roman. Thank you so much. All right. Next, Jimmie, if you're ready and available, I'll pass it over to you.
Cool. Yeah, no, great to finally meet as well, Ray. And thanks everyone for having me. So exciting to see all the cool stuff that people are working on. Also, I'm an RBS 2013, so we are overrepresented in this group. So just a shout out to Matt and Njeri who went earlier. Really great to see you guys again as well. Like I mentioned, my name is Jimmie Harris. I work full-time for a company called Assessments for Good, where we're thinking about the future of education, particularly for Black and Latinx students. I'm kind of on the earlier end, and if assessments can be transformative for them through asset-based informative methods. But as sort of a side project, what I'm going to be talking about today is a company I started 2 years ago called SimpleIEP. So a little bit of background. My mom is a special education teacher. If any of you guys have ever known a special education teacher, you know that they are a special breed and the most incredible human beings ever, but they also have a ton of paperwork. So they spend on average 20 hours a week just doing paperwork. So this isn't like grading papers necessarily. This is like writing up documentation about students. And that means it's 20 hours a week they can't spend directly with students. They can't spend individualizing instruction. 20 hours they can't spend like sleeping. So growing up, my mom would always be stressed about all the things that she had to do. I think with the rise of LLMs a couple of years ago, one of the things that I realized and my co-founder realized was we had the opportunity to support that process and not just make it faster, but also make it better. So what SimpleIEP is, it's an AI-powered special education platform that helps reduce the amount of time teachers are spending on paperwork, but then also improve the quality with the hopes of improving outcomes for students ultimately. What that looks like is we take in a lot of documentation about students, we customize documents for schools, and then teachers are the experts that are guiding the system to create drafts of different sections of a document called an individualized education plan. There's a ton of educational related things that I'm not going to get into today. I mainly just wanted to kind of focus on some of the ways that we're using artificial intelligence, particularly in the ways that we're using it to kind of meet teachers where they're at, because a lot of the things that we do might not be best practice, but they are the things that our users really like and are able to engage with. So the first thing I want to show you guys is a couple different examples of what an IEP looks like. It's terrible. It's like it's a plan that's created every year for students. It's like 20 pages. It's written in legal copy. It's really long and arduous. Like parents don't understand it. Teachers hate writing it. And the real reason it exists is because it's mandated by federal law, which is great. Like, I mean, we need to protect our students, especially now. We need to ensure that students with disabilities have access to appropriate education. So the document itself, like the idea of it is great, but the way that it's been executed can be really challenging for teachers because now not only do they have to teach, not only only do they have to be, part-time social workers, they also have to be part-time lawyers on top of all of this. So what we do, one of the things I want to show you guys is every IEP is written differently. And so one of the problems with systems now is that oftentimes schools are getting cookie cutter systems that aren't able to customize to their individual needs. So one of the things we can do really easily with AI is we can create custom forms for schools. So one of the things is like, hey, you have a form for an IEP that you really like. Like if you can just give it to us, we can go break it down and make an example of it in our system so that now every teacher has access to that form and can fill it out exactly the way that you want. This takes forever. And by forever, I mean like 7 minutes, which is the entire demo. So I'll show you what that looks like on the other end. I already have an example already done. This is for Missouri. You can see now we just have all these fields. We have different things going on in the fields, and teachers should go through and fill this out. Now, this is all well and good, but one of the things that we often hear from teachers is that, we have a lot of data on our students, because when you have a student in an educational system, right, we've got testing data, we've got online data, we've got learning management system data, and it's kind of all over the place and often very poorly organized. This reminds me of some of the things that were going on earlier around organizing data using AI. We do a very similar thing where we basically let teachers say, hey, you can give us data in basically any format, right? Like you can upload a PDF, that's great. You can upload a Word doc, but you can also upload a table. People take like pictures of things on their phone, and we like analyze and extract the text from that. But just give us all of the data that you think is important for the student, and we can kind of work on framing it, understanding it, and augmenting the documents that you're going to create on the back end so that you don't have to worry about it, right? You've got this, imagine having a pile of papers on your desk, and normally you'd have to like go through, figure out what's important, where it goes and things like that. Instead, you can just snap a picture, all of it comes into our system and gets organized automatically. So these are those files down here. Once you have all of the different data that you want about the student, that's where it gets really fun. You can go into our system and you can actually start answering questions. So some of the sections in the system can be answered automatically, but a lot of them require teacher input. So for example, one of the things we really do is we draft sections of the IEP. When I click a green generate button for each section, it's got like custom prompting layers on the back end that are specified to the school, to the teacher. We can do things like learn over time if we want. And then we also kind of match it to state and federal requirements. We can generate sections. This is, just an LLM generation, nothing special. I think what is kind of interesting is we are LLM agnostic, so we use different LLMs for different things. We also have to sign like special privacy contracts with LLMs because of the data that we're working with. I should just mention that up front. But we'll draft a section of the IEP. This is great because now a teacher doesn't have to start from scratch, right? You're not looking at a blank page. You're starting at an 80%. You can go through, you can edit it. But the other thing we heard, which was really cool, and I think we're starting to see more and more, but 2 years ago when we started was not as common, was that teachers have a really hard time like typing. Like it's not fun. It feels like they're writing an essay. So instead, they'd really love to just talk to a system, because one of the things that they do all the time is, they're passing another teacher in the hallway, they're giving quick updates about the students. So we thought, what if we could bring that experience to the virtual world, right? Like what if you could just talk to the system? So we've got these little voice activated features everywhere here. You can say something like, turn this into 2 paragraphs. Adrian's now in 12th grade and he no longer lives with his stepfather or step siblings. So that goes into the system, takes a second, thinks, and then applies the changes. You guys have all used generative AI. You know how it works. There's, again, some custom prompting in the background. That's really cool. But that new paragraph can come out and be used for, this is just the way that teachers interact with this, right? They just keep talking to it, and over again, they develop better and better drafts for this document. The final thing I'll show, I'll try to keep this pretty brief. The final thing I'll show is one of the things that we hear, actually, let me do one more section. So one of the things that also has to happen in these documents is there are sections that have like specific requirements for what needs to go into them, right? And oftentimes teachers will submit something to their like special education coordinator that is, the ultimate reviewer, without having all of the different sections that they need to filled out. So we have a lot of AI assisted features that also do things like check the work that teachers have done. So here you can see we've got these, we call them key questions, but there's like 7 key questions here. I can give some updates to the system, and then I won't this time just for time's sake, but if I click that generate button, I'll create a draft based on the documents I have available for the student. It'll take a second. That wasn't great. Let's try this. Adrian is really struggling with his reading comprehension. He really likes to read, but he often reads below grade level books. One of the problems is he often shuts down when he's asked to engage with grade level text and will distract others. Okay, this is what it was supposed to look like the first time. Don't know why I didn't get there. But basically, we have teacher guidance kind of giving some information about what needs to be in that bucket in this bucket. Then we pull in all of the data to support that teacher input. So we're providing that compliance aspect. We're providing some data enrichment to what's being said by the teacher, but still looking to that teacher expertise as the kind of head and guide of where we want to go. Once I click on this, you'll start to see it takes a little bit of time, but these questions start to get answered. So now the teacher can see, hey, did I provide all of this information that I was supposed to? In this case, we don't have progress monitoring, so there's no progress monitoring here. Right? But all of this other stuff gets updated automatically. You can imagine this is really helpful because teachers can say like, hey, like, in fact, I did not mean to provide that because we don't have it. That's great. Or, oh, shoot, I forgot about that. Let me go find that file, upload it, or add the additional information myself. I'm going to stop there just because I think you guys get the gist. But basically, a lot of it is around how do we meet teachers where we're at? How do we make AI really accessible to them by doing a lot of the heavy lifting in the back end? And then how do we provide customization using AI? Like I mentioned, we started about 2 years ago. We did a year-long pilot, which was co-development for free with schools across the US. This year is our first time having paid customers. So now all the schools we work with are paying us. It's been really fun. People really love it. It's one of the things that is kind of busy work for them and is something that they don't like to do. Like they did not get into teaching in order to do paperwork. And then we're also making their lives easier and then hopefully this documentation better. So I feel really great about that. We're also international. We just got our first school in Canada, which is really exciting. If you're in the ed tech space, I've got a bunch of follow-ups to make with you guys, but would love to connect. And then the other thing I'd say is schools are under threat right now. Budgets are tight. Everything's kind of a mess. If you can support schools or education in any way, tutoring, volunteering, things like that, please do, because our kids need it right now.
Well said, Jimmie. So thank you. That was great. Awesome. So next up, I will pass the stage over to Phillip. Phillip, great to see you, man. I appreciate you making time to do this. So tell us about what you're doing and tell us about Touchpoint.
Great to see you too, Ray. Thanks for inviting me to join. So just want to introduce myself really briefly to everyone. My name is Phillip Champagne. I just recently graduated from Harvard Law School, and afterwards I founded and launched Touchpoint Legal. Touchpoint Legal is a premier startup focused on delivering the new world of reporting for in-house legal departments to try to really tackle some of the main challenges that they have, really uniquely around the 2 V's, as I like to call them. The first V is visibility. And the second V is value. Legal departments, often at companies like your Facebooks, Microsofts, etc. of the world, they are often struggling with dozens, if not hundreds, of ongoing legal matters at any given time. Often, that's ongoing litigation. It could also be ongoing transactional matters like different financings that are happening. A ton of different legal work is happening at these large corporations at any given time. And all these threads are constantly ongoing, and it's hard to get a sense of where things stand at any given moment in time. And so having that sort of visibility over a legal department can be quite the challenge. Now, the second V that legal departments often struggle with is the V that stands for value. Now, legal departments are constantly struggling with budgets, ever tightening budgets, because legal departments are often viewed as a cost center within their business as opposed to a strategic partner. And this is a reputation that constantly undermines their ability to perform effectively in their roles and minimizes the amount of budget available for them to grow and expand effectively to accomplish their mandate. Now, when we look at these 2 V's, we think about what can we do to disrupt this narrative of legal departments as a cost center, and how can we create a vision of value for legal departments using AI? And so that's where we come in. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And so this is a bit of a demo that we put together that tries to offer a new approach to visualizing value in companies, in legal departments, to start telling the story that needs to be told of how legal teams are creating value every day in their organizations. So right here, you can go ahead and click review your impact and choose which sort of profile fits you best. Are you looking to highlight your revenue driving skills in your business, or perhaps where you've mitigated costs or mitigated risk within your business, or just show how you've been operating extremely effectively day by day in your organization and created value for your business? Now, I'm going to choose the revenue driver option here. And here you're going to see that we have 3 main features as a part of this experience. We have the live dashboard. So as a part of this live dashboard, it gives you the past, present, and future of your organization that really just shows a snapshot of what is going on currently at any given time across your database of matters. It shows you the past of your organization, so where you've accrued value to date historically for your business, and kind of shows you those data points. And then it gives you a bit of future planning as well to help you map out what you might need moving forward to scale your organization effectively or to address the incoming influx of new matters. We also have 2 other features, an executive brief and legal wrapped. The executive brief is a strategic presentation for leadership across the C-suite or the board. And the legal wrapped is more of a fun, light, airy presentation, just meant to celebrate some of the accomplishments in the legal department. I'll go ahead and jump into the live dashboard. So within this dashboard, as I mentioned, it's all about looking at the past, the present, and then planning out the future. So starting with the past, we see a bit of a vision into what has already been worked on by the legal department over the last quarter. So, how many contracts have been worked on for the business? Perhaps those contracts have yielded around $12 million in extra revenue for the business over the last quarter. And so we are downloading those insights across your database of contracts and representing that here so that you have a data point that you can now highlight to your organization, your leadership to start telling the story of what legal departments are creating in terms of value. Some of this is automatically gleaned from the contract data that you're working with day to day. Some of this is inputted manually if you want to add more color to your organization and really showcase some data points that aren't already highlighted. We show you different matters that you've worked on over the last quarter, various strategic initiatives and cross-functional goals that you have helped enable for the business, such as a fundraising or an expansion into a new market. And we show you all the different businesses, all the different departments within the business that you've helped work with or enable to kind of fulfill their functions as well. Now, moving from the past, we get into the present. And that's where we show you a bit of an active overview of what is currently going on across your business at any given time for different legal matters. So we show you who you're working with across the business, what types of matters, whether it's contracts, sales contracts, NDA reviews, litigation, like what's kind of taking up the bulk of work in your organization, and any favorites that you want to keep your eye on because they're high priority items. We actually sort by priority and things that are high risk and things that have been escalated to other parties in your organization. We show you a bit of a glance into the workload across your team so you have an idea of bandwidth and where things could be more spread out evenly, and a bit of spend tracking and general updates as well. Now, taking it from the present and the past, we go right back into the future. Here is where we start to do a bit of scenario planning and analysis based on the history of data that's been available for your organization so that you could start mapping out various scenarios that might come to pass in your organization, whether you're working at a current state or if your organization is planning to grow and expand in the coming months, what sort of resources and capacity you might need in order to grow and expand effectively your department so that you are enabling the rest of the business to perform effectively. We have that for different scenarios so that you can start to wrap your head around what it might look like to perform effectively. And we give you various projections as well. Now, lastly, on this page, I will also point out that we have an ability to create these custom reports based on some of the widgets that you saw prior in the rest of the dashboard here. And if not, just grabbing these widgets, you could also choose from custom templates that we have selected for you and just easily download those and send those off to various stakeholders in your organization. Now, I'm going to show you next the executive dashboard just to give you an insight into what it looks like to present a lot of these insights to various stakeholders like the C-suites in your organization. So this is a executive brief that is meant to really just tell the story of what's happening in legal departments in a quick and dirty view, just so that you can start keeping your stakeholders looped in very effectively without the amount of labor that it takes to kind of create these customized presentations all the time. Here it is just instantly created for you using AI based on the insights that are already aggregated for you in the executive dashboard. So that's what this executive brief is meant for and can accomplish. Lastly, we have a legal wrapped. This is really borrowed from Spotify Wrapped in terms of what experience we want to deliver to our users here. So here is where we give a really fun and airy report that just showcases where the legal department has been winning lately and where it's been enabling a lot of the rest of the business to win as well. And this is a fun report that can be shared across the business and just give some airtime into where we could celebrate individuals, organizations, and teams more effectively and loudly so that credit is received where credit is due. And so, that's the last of the feature list that I want to show you. Now, the biggest question I often get is, where does this all come from? And as I mentioned before or alluded to, a lot of this is coming from, general contract data within a business and just the volume of contracts that are being worked on by the legal department at any given time. So here is where you kind of start to build out those business cases. You look at different tools and software that you might already be using to date, whether that's, tools like Salesforce or a contract lifecycle management solution or the calendars of people in your organization, just to give you a sense of where data might be coming from day to day. And you're able to take that data and start mapping it to various business initiatives that are being worked on at any given time within your organization. We might identify those for you, or you could add your own. Either way, here's this human in the loop that can go through and confirm various initiatives and mapping these initiatives to work that has already been done so that you can start generating the business case for your organization and generating the dashboards that you saw prior. So that's in sum is what we are building at Touchpoint. We are really trying to create this insights engine for your business that can help more effectively tell the story of various stakeholders in your organization so that you can understand value where value is being created right now, or help you map out a journey to start unlocking more value within your business. I'll pause right there. We are currently still building out the product and kind of touching up a few details here and there, but we're really excited. We've showcased this to a ton of different legal departments already who have already been raving about what we're building here and have signed a couple LOIs to get this released over time. And, we're looking forward to a future of putting this in the hands of more people and helping them tell the story that they want to tell. Thank you.
Excellent job, Phillip. Thank you for that. All right, y'all. We have saved one of the best for last. Obviously, you can never pick the best of the Ron Brown alums that we have, but Noah is a great person, great friend, and has worked on many different projects. And today is going to show a little bit of what he's been working on with another Ron Brown scholar as well. So Noah, just thank you for being a part of this and being so supportive of what we've been doing all this year.
Those are humbling words, Ray. I don't think I live up to. I appreciate you saving me the best for last, but I feel like an AI poser here with so much great technical talent in the room. I'm Noah Faison, RBS captain of 2016. I was Columbia undergrad class of 2020, and now I'm back at Columbia Business School getting my MBA, graduating in class of 27. And as Ray said, I am working with Ali Howie, who's RBS 13, as a scout for his firm, Mount Auburn Venture Partners. And the product I'm going to demonstrate today is Paraflow AI, which is a Mount Auburn incubated business. And although maybe I feel like an AI poser, there's great technical talent behind the team that's developing this tool. Our CTO, Deepak Srinivas, was a leading engineer at PayPal. And we feel really good about where we are at the pre-seed stage with this product continuing to build customer traction. So what is Paraflow? We want to be the AI operating system for venture capital. And we're starting with top of funnel inbound deal flow optimization. And the core problem is that the majority of VCs across stages, but particularly emerging managers, are spending a tremendous amount of their time combing through inbound deals, trying to identify what deals add value and are thesis aligned and what deals aren't. And basically, Paraflow is a weapon to increase return on time accounting. And since there are a number of founders in the room as well, I should also say that there's use in trying out the product from a founder perspective, because it can give you some insights into how aligned your existing deck, whatever stage it might be in, is with a target firm. So the setup is very easy. It's easy to try out. You can sign up with email or with Google. If you sign up, I've created a kind of scenario where in the very near future, and the great people at Ron Brown Venture Lab decide that they want to build an accelerator, and they're getting so many inbound deals that they've decided to onboard with Paraflow, and are starting to process their inbound deals with us. So the starting point, let's see here, let me go to thesis first. The starting point is uploading the thesis, which is the foundation of finding alignment. So it could be as easy as dropping in an existing URL that you have, describing to the investor community and to potential founders what your investment strategy is, what your priorities are, what target sectors and stage you're focused on. In this case, since this is a imagined scenario that would be great for the RBS accelerator, I've taken the liberty of trying to kind of predict what the investment strategy of the RBS accelerator would look like. Foundationally, you guys can read through, it would be highly aligned with what RBS is already doing. And the opportunity here is to customize what thesis alignment looks like for your fund, for your firm. And the various weights could include investment strategy, target sectors, stage and focus. There's a number. It could get pretty detailed here, and ask the platform to apply different levels of scrutiny to different factors. And then it's as easy as uploading existing decks. We have a Chrome add-in to attach to Gmail in the pipeline. But I think the future that we imagined is not just where firms are uploading existing decks from their computer, but where we have existing integrations with like events platforms that VCs often use, like Luma, so that VCs can prioritize who they want in the room. Founders can easily upload their deck via mobile or desktop. And founders can kind of see, oh, this is someone that we definitely want in the room because they have an aligned company. Or they could embed a Paraflow link in an accelerator program they're running to identify the most aligned founders. But let's just say that, again, I work for the RBS Accelerator, which has just started up. I have kind of a bunch of recent inbounds. We're in the week of October 27th. Delta Ops, AI, Rika has reached out to me. Let's see if this one is going to work. I believe is an RBS founded business. So this one's a little large for the bandwidth with the screen running. Let's see. So let's just go into Delta Ops and save some time. I just uploaded this while the prior presenter was talking. So this was an inbound deal that came in recently. This is a business that's focused on healthcare workforce optimization, and it doesn't score too well based upon the priorities that the RBS Accelerator has, and we can just tell that from the score of 65% from the jump. Basically, what the platform is showing me is across the different factors that matter to me that I described in the thesis input section, how Delta Ops AI scores. And I can read through a brief AI-generated executive summary, and if I wanted to, if I'm headed into investment committee meeting or meeting with, say, an LP, maybe introduction, I could click into any number of, why don't we like quick facts, any number of helpful key statistics or KPIs that the company wants me to know about that would be locked in slides, and that would take me probably 20 minutes to read through and then take notes on, that the AI can just tell me in about 2 minutes. I think a really useful tool that we're excited about is the investment memo. And again, there's opportunity to optimize this based upon, say, I'm an emerging manager and really aspire to run my business similar to some of the reputable firms like Bessemer or A16Z. There's an opportunity to kind of copy their fundamental process and then optimize for what I've learned works for RBS Accelerator. And then to just rinse and repeat and continue to optimize over Paraflow, and all that intelligence and learnings are captured on the platform. I think that one of the things that we found is that, like in this scenario where I've only onboarded today and have one deck uploaded, it doesn't take very long for the platform to learn. And the great thing is that if I just go back to, the great thing is that I can kind of click in to any of these tabs and change manually things that I don't think are right analysis. This is particularly helpful if, say, I'm an active VC who's already looked at 100 deals over the past couple of weeks, and it's easy for me to just port them into Paraflow AI. Since it's a bunch of known outcomes, if the AI isn't scoring them correctly, you can kind of quickly adjust them, and that's an easy way to ramp up. So that opportunity to quickly onboard and to optimize your process and increase your return on time is really compelling. I think I'll end it there by just saying that we really want to be intelligence partners with emerging stage managers. We want to give Ray a access code to provide anyone who's interested in starting a fund near term or who's actively managing a fund the ability to use the platform for free on a limited duration basis, just to try it out. You could upload as many decks as you want, see if it's something that you would get value from. The tool was developed out of an internal need at Mount Auburn, and we've saved a tremendous amount of time using it. So roughly like 2 hours a day, which is a lot. And it's time that can be kind of returned to existing portfolio companies, or trying to source founders who are thesis aligned. This is just kind of the wedge case. The deal scoring and top of funnel optimization, I think ultimately we'll look to release versions that we have in the works with cap table tracking and another set of robust features that we think will increase value over time. We see this as kind of our wedge case and are really excited to increase the number of users we have by showing them what a great return on time it's delivered for us, and providing kind of free access through some of these codes with partners like Ron Brown Venture Lab. So I will stop there.
No, this is great.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we have reached the end of what has been an amazing afternoon for the first Ron Brown AI Summit held via Zoom. I really appreciate some of our most loyal folks who have been here since the very beginning, when we started 2.5 hours ago. It's hard to believe that much time has passed because it felt so jam-packed and so insightful and interesting. And, 30 years ago when Anthony Pallaro and Michael Mallory had the vision for this program, it included this vast network approach that you saw today, that even just on one dimension of artificial intelligence, you're seeing so many different people across so many different years, so many different domains are all doing great things, and they're all connected by this one program that they all met while they were in high school. And so it's exciting to see what this is happening in AI. This is just AI. This also is happening in healthcare. It's also happening in the life sciences. It's also happening in law and criminal justice. It's also happening in finance. And so we're going to continue to figure out different programming like this to where we can showcase all of the great things that Ron Brown folks are doing. So last thing I'm going to leave in the chat before I let you go is just a bunch of links. I will make sure to follow up with all of the folks who were in attendance today to make sure that you at least know me. But if you're new to Ron Brown and want to learn more about us, I've included our website, some ways that you can get in touch with me. And there are a lot of folks that you met today that you may want to connect with. I'll make sure that you have a way to do so. We'll post the recording of this online, but also give a last plug to our podcast. The same folks and stories and inspiration that you had today is something that you can listen to anytime, anywhere, that we try to capture on our podcast too. And so there's a link to that, mainly that you can share with other young Black professionals and students who are looking to expand their horizons of what's possible. There are many cases where a lot of us growing up didn't have a lot of examples of folks ahead of us that we could see that look like us who are doing great things. No Ron Brown Scholar has that excuse, because there are plenty, hundreds, if not thousands, of folks that they can look up to that are all part of this program. So thank you so much for being a part of today. I will stick around a little bit just to see if anybody else wants to come and chat and to share their feedback. But we will follow up with you soon, and appreciate your time this afternoon. And be safe today. Happy Halloween, and hope you all have fun with costumes, candy, and all the festivities this evening as well.